Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using some of the Washi Tape Shop's beautiful floral washi tapes. I recently shared a haul video showing several of the new washi and PET tapes. With spring right around the corner, I decided to pull out the floral designs. For my first set of cards, I'm using 2 tapes that are part of a 3-tape set. It's the Morning Blush set. I only have the 2. If you want to check out the full set, I do have links in the description box below. Some of their designs are available in both the washi and PET tapes. This set is only available as washi tape. The roll is about 2 inches wide. I'm putting 2 strips on a piece of white shimmer cardstock, and I decided to adhere them at an angle. I'm leaving about 1/8 of an inch between the 2 rows of tape. And I cut the washi tape a little bit wider than the card panel. That way I can wrap the end around the back and I don't have to worry about it coming off later. For a little bit of shine, I'm adding a Love from Lizzie peel off in the center of the 2 strips of washi tape, and I'll also put one at the top and bottom. I'm using the gold color in pinstripe style, and this is the narrowest width. For the row in the center, I am using some of the smaller scrap pieces since I will be covering up the very center of the card with the sentiment. I'll wrap the ends around the back, put adhesive on the back, making sure to cover up all the ends of the peel-offs and also the washi tape. Then I'll layer this piece on some dark green cardstock. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. 99% of the time I make A2 size cards, but I think one day, just to throw people off, I'll make a different size card. For a sentiment, I'm using a die set from scrapbook.com. It's called There's No One Like You. It includes the background piece and also the piece that cuts out all the individual letters. And what I love about that shadow background piece, it debosses the words or individual letters. So it makes it super easy to line up all of the letters. And just to save on time, I already had most of the letters attached. I will be popping up the sentiment using foam dimension. This is scrapbook.com's 1/4 inch foam in the 1mm thickness. We'll make sure to get good coverage on the back. Cut some smaller pieces to fit in those tiny areas. Then I'll remove the release paper and add the sentiment in the center of the card. I selected cardstock colors for the sentiment that match the beautiful florals on the washi tape. For embellishments, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the same gold color, but this time I'm using the mini circle design. I'll put 3 of the smallest size circles in the upper left-hand corner and 2 in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I ended up making a total of 4. 2 of the cards feature the same floral tape. The other 2 cards feature the other floral tape that's included in the Morning Blush washi tape set. And as I mentioned earlier, there is a 3rd roll. I just don't have it. Now moving on to card design number 2. This card will feature one of the washi tapes that's included in the Scarlet Bloom set. I showed 2 of them, but there are 3 included. I'm using this gorgeous pink and red floral design, and I'll add a piece on some white cardstock. I'll wrap the ends around the back, then I'll trim off the extra white cardstock. And I'm adding the washi tape on white cardstock so you can really see the pattern since washi tape is transparent. The papers I'll be using on this card are included in Your Paper Insider's subscription box number 10. This is currently the box you'll receive if you subscribe, and it is full of so many gorgeous specialty and solid cardstocks. If you want to check out Your Paper Insider, I do have a link in the description box below. The 2 papers I selected are the Fuchsia Rayon Grid Tissue This is like a handmade paper. I'll add a piece on some white cardstock. I'm adding Barely Art glue along the outside edge, and there's about an inch of it that will be covered up with other cardstock, so I'll put glue on the bottom of that area. I want to make sure there's enough adhesive so that paper doesn't come off of the card. And at the bottom of the card, I'm adding a narrow piece of the Stellar White Carnival Groove cardstock. It has this really fun corrugated embossed surface. Instead of leaving that piece white, I'm using Catherine Pooler's Succulent ink color. It's beautiful green. I'll cover this entire piece with green ink, having the color darker at the bottom and gradually getting lighter toward the top. There are a few areas where I got a little bit too much ink, but that will be covered up later on. Now I'll put Barely Art glue on the back, attach this panel at the bottom of the card. Then I'll attach the floral washi tape piece, and I'll adhere it right above the green corrugated piece at the bottom of the card. So you'll see more of the red grid specialty paper at the top. For a little bit of separation and shine, I'll add a Love from Lizzie peel off on the top and bottom edge of the washi tape piece. This is the straight style in gold moon dust with gold overlay. So the edges are super shiny. The moon dust style is a little bit thicker, so instead of wrapping the end around the back, I'll trim off the overhang. I'll be adding a black rectangle frame, and the die set is from Waffle Flower. It's their nesting rectangle frames die set. I'm using the largest size, which is A2 size. I put double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the frame, and I'll adhere it on my background panel. Some of the background piece was peeking out at the top and side, but no worries, I used my trimmer to clean off that extra. Now I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. For the image and sentiment panel, I have a piece of white cardstock. And this piece is 1 7/8 of an inch by 3 inches. Instead of keeping it white, I'll add a little bit of blue ink. This is Distress Oxide Tumbled Glass. When I first started inking that background, I got way too much ink in the center. No worries, simply flipped over the piece of cardstock and I'll work on the other side. Next, I'll layer this piece on some black cardstock. And the black cardstock piece is an additional 1/8 of an inch. So 2 inches by 3 1/8 of an inch. I'll be adding a green cardstock sprig, and the die set is from scrapbook.com. It's their Sprigs die set. I selected a green cardstock color that matches the green leaves on the washi tape. This sprig piece is actually a little bit longer. There are 2 large leaves at the very bottom. I didn't cut those out since I knew they wouldn't fit on this image panel. I'll put Barely Art glue on the back and attach the sprig die cut piece on my image panel. The little floral area or berries at the end of the sprigs, I kept the cutout piece and I'll inlay it back inside. That way there's a little more green and it's not just that outline. I'm adding glue down first, then making sure to line up that cutout area the correct direction. Cutout piece only fits one direction, so make sure you're not forcing it. If it doesn't fit right away, just keep rotating it until it pops back in. Now I'll flip over the image panel, and I will be popping it up with more foam from scrapbook.com. I'll be adding the Sentiment Thanks, and this is a cut apart from Paper Rose's All Occasions Sentiment Sheet set. I'll remove the release paper from the foam, add the image on the right side of the card, and I already have double-sided adhesive tape on the back of the sentiment. I'll remove the release paper and adhere it in the upper right-hand corner of the image panel. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some lovely glitter in the center of the 3 green sprig pieces. And I'm using a glitter brush marker from scrapbook.com. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For the second card, same design, but I added the sentiment hello. Now moving on to card design number 3, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from Freshly Made Sketches. It's number 675. For the background of my card, the pattern paper is from Craft Consortium's Grunge Light Tones collection. On the card sketch, there are the 3 narrow strips. They alternate right and left. Instead of adding pattern paper for those narrow strips, I'm using a stamp set from Love from Lizzie. I believe this is the Hello Sunshine set. I will have it linked below if you're interested. I'll stamp directly onto the pattern paper, so I do have it set up in my mini MISTI. For the first line, it has lots of scribble on the very left side. When I'm stamping it, I have the right side going off the edge of the paper just a tiny bit. The ink color I'm using for the squiggle lines is Catherine Pooler's Spruce. It's a nice dark green ink color. To clean my stamp, I'm using scrapbook.com's Stamp Chamois. And yes, mine is very stained even though I rinse it out all the time, but that's okay, it still works just fine and the ink doesn't transfer onto the next stamp. For the second line on the left side of the card, I used this stamp with a cute little daisy on the right side. And again, I will stamp it so the very end goes off the edge of the paper. Instead of putting just one line in the lower right-hand corner, I'll be stamping 2 different lines. I'll start with the shorter one with the end going off the edge of the paper. But for the last line, this little squiggly design, I'll stamp it about 1 inch left of that line above it. And it is a shorter line, so it's not going off the edge on the right side of the card. For a sentiment, I'm stamping the word hello, and this is included on the same stamp set as all those little squiggly lines. There are actually 9 different fonts for the word hello, which is really fun. I'll stamp the sentiment in the lower right-hand corner underneath that last squiggly line, and I'm using Honeybee Stamps Intense Black ink. I'll clean off the stamp, remove the paper from my mini MISTI. Now it's time to add some lovely washi tape florals. The set I'll be using for this card and also the next 2 cards is the pre-cut Peony Reverie wide washi tape. I love the gorgeous designs on this set, and it's so nice that it's pre-cut, so you don't have to do any fussy cutting. This roll is also available in the PET tape style. I have the washi tape style, but it's nice that you do have the option. I cut out several of the floral and leaf pieces, and I'll start adding them on the squiggly lines. Putting 2 on that top line in the upper right-hand corner. I'll add the little leaf piece, a smaller floral, and then a larger bloom on the second line on the left side of the card. And then on the bottom right side, I'll add 1 larger bloom, a medium-sized bloom, and then a smaller bloom on that very lower squiggly line. For a little extra detail on the background of the card, I'll splatter some black watercolor paint. This is a watercolor set I've had for many, many years. If it is still available, I will link it in the description box. Once the paint is dry, I'll put adhesive on the back and layer this piece on some dark green cardstock. My pattern paper piece is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and the green cardstock layer is A2 size. Now I'll put adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. So there's my finished card. Decided to keep it nice and flat so it'll mail easily without any additional postage. Now moving on to card design number 4. I have a piece of white cardstock and I'll be adding some blue ink in the center. The ink color is Distress Oxide Tumbled Glass. I'm focusing the ink in the very center of this panel and gradually getting lighter as I work my way out toward the edge. Once I'm happy with the results, I'll use the same Tumbled glass ink color and add a splatter all over the background. I'll press some ink on an acrylic block, spritz it with water, then I'll take a paintbrush and gently tap it over the background. And even though it is the same ink color, it does look slightly darker on the card. Now I'll cut out this panel using a stitched rectangle die from Lizzie. And the die size I'm using is 5¼ inches by 4 inches. Now it's time to add some of the beautiful washi tape floral images. And I'm using the same roll, pre-cut Peony Reverie. Instead of the bold red flowers, this time I'll go with these soft pink flowers. I selected 2 of the larger blooms, and I'll adhere them in the lower left-hand corner, and I am overlapping them just slightly. I have the larger flower in the front. This washi tape design also has lots of little pink circle pieces, and I thought those would be perfect for embellishments. I'll add 3 on the right side of the blooms and 2 in the lower left-hand corner. There are so many different light pink circle images. It took me a while to decide which 5 to feature on this card. For a sentiment, I'll be stamping directly onto this panel. I'll grab my mini MISTI since I don't want to misstamp anything. I'll be adding the sentiment thank you, and this is from scrapbook.com's Thanks Friend stamp set. There is a coordinating die set that goes with the stamp set, but I won't be using it since I'm stamping directly onto this panel. I'll add the sentiment on the right side, sort of nestled in between the 2 blooms. I will ink it up several times using intense black ink from Honeybee Stamps. Now I'll layer this piece on some dark green cardstock. Put ATG tape on the back and also some Barely Art glue along that faux stitch line. It'll help it lay nice and flat on the green cardstock layer. Then I'll put more adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is another card I decided to keep nice and flat. Overall, this was a very simple card to make, and I love how the blooms really stand out against the light background. Now moving on to card design number 5, I am using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from MFT, it's number 290. I will be using pattern paper for this card. It's from Craft Consortium. It's their Botany Boutique Premium Collection. I bought this collection last year. It's absolutely gorgeous, but this is the first time I'm pulling it out. For the background of my card, selected this lovely design, has a black background and lots of green leaves. And it is the only pattern paper I'm using on this card. I cut the pattern paper piece to 4 inches by 5¼ inches, and I'll layer it on some lighter green cardstock. Then I'll add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 inch of the white card base showing. For the 2 banners on the left side of the card, for the larger one, I'm using a slightly darker green cardstock, and that smaller piece, I'm using the same cardstock color as the background layer. I cut a fishtail at the bottom of the darker green banner, and that smaller piece, I'm cutting it the same, following the design of the card sketch. It's a little easier if you have a die that same shape, but I just used a pair of scissors. If it's not cut perfectly, that's okay, no one will notice. For the image panel, I have a piece of white cardstock, and I'll be layering it on the same green cardstock layer as the very background. I'll add 3 of the red floral images, 1 large bloom in the center, and 2 smaller floral pieces, 1 on the right side and 1 on the left. Now I'll layer this piece on the green cardstock, and that green cardstock layer is an additional 1/8 inch. Before adhering it down, I will put a scrap piece of cardstock underneath, just in the area where it goes off of the green cardstock banner pieces. That way the image panel stays at the same level. For a sentiment, I'm adding Thinking of You. And this sentiment is included on Catherine Pooler's Scrolling Snowflake stamp set. I stamped it on some craft cardstock with black ink. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side. I'll place the sentiment on the image panel, and there's a tiny bit of one of the leaves peeking out below. I decided to peel up that leaf and trim off that area. Then I'll put Barely Art glue on the back and adhere this sentiment in place. And it does overlap the bottom of the 3 flowers. For embellishments, I'm using more Love from Lizzie peel-offs. This is the mini circle style in Racing Green Mirror color. I'll put 2 in the upper right-hand corner of the image panel and 3 on the 2 banners in the lower left-hand corner. Now here's another look at the 12 cards I made using some new floral washi tapes from the Washi tape shop. They offer a wide assortment of beautiful washi and PET tapes. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links in the description box below. And if you're shopping at the Washi tape shop, be sure to use my code KristieM10 to save 10% off your order. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.